Hey guys, this is Drew. I'm in my garage, so it's a little bit more echoey than the downstairs area. Today we're going to be going over how to cut these carbon fiber tubes, and eventually we'll get to installing the bullet locks to lock them in. Let's get started. Because we're going to be cutting carbon fiber, we're going to need a hacksaw, a drill, some masking tape, a Sharpie, some scissors to cut the masking tape, a tape measure. This one's in metric and imperial. I just like this one. Some digital calipers. These things are great if you don't already have them. And if you don't have a drill, I'll be showing off my rusty old bit brace with drilling. So if you don't have a drill, you can pick one of these up for like 20 bucks maybe. Oh yeah, also you should get some drill bits. These ones are imperial, these ones are metric. Because I'm using M5 bolts, I'm going to be using the metric, the 5mm, but if you just have imperial, a 13/64 will work just fine, but I'm missing mine, so I'm pretty sure a 3/16 would work as well. But I'm not going to be doing that because I'm going to be using the M5. Alright, so the first step of this process is going to be cutting this carbon fiber tube in half. This is a matte finish kind of carbon fiber tube. The gloss actually adds about 1 millimeter, but it's a 17mm inner diameter and an 18 outer diameter. And how we're going to start this off is we're going to pull out our tape. Just going to kind of lock it there just to get a decent guess of where the halfway point is going to be. I'm just going to put a little mark. It's going to be really hard to see, but it's about right there. And so if you just have an imperial tape measure, this is going to be like 9 7/8, I think. Alright, so the second step is going to be wrapping tape around this point. You can kind of see where the Sharpie is glossing. And we're going to take our tape here, and we're just going to, like that. Take the scissors and cut. So what wrapping this in tape does is it makes it so that the carbon fibers won't fray out once we're sawing. Alright, so I'm going to remark this. Right. Using the metric side. The better side. Because carbon fiber is such a nasty material, I recommend having a garbage can underneath where you're going to cut. And let's get started. And we can just dump the fibers out into the trash can. This probably has some scratches on it, but that'll be okay. You have a little vacuum, you can just... Now that our carbon fiber tubes have been cut into 2 lengths, we can just take the tape off because we don't need it anymore. So for this next part of the process, I'm going to assume that most people don't have a drill press, and so you can use one if you want to, but I'm going to be using the drill and the bit brace from earlier. There we go. And we're going to be drilling holes into these. For the bullet lock goes inside like that, and this goes over the outside like that. And what you do is there's a nut inside the bullet lock, and when you bolt through, it sandwiches it from both sides, so you're not putting stress on the outsides of the carbon fiber tube, you're pinching it along the wall, and that's where it's going to be strongest. So there's a reason behind the bullet locks. We're not just gluing them in. Also, they're replaceable, so you can take them out like that. So if you want to switch around your pieces, your carbon fiber, what have you, you can do whatever you want with it. Depending on which piece you get, your coupling hub here might have covered in the middle, so you can just take your drill and pull it out because you don't need it anymore. The fitting in here might be a little tight, so you might want to take a little bit of sandpaper and just kind of get in there with it and kind of sand the walls a little tiny bit to make it a little bit easier to insert the tube, because these are very tight fits. There we go. So I recommend putting the side that you cut in there, so the side, so it doesn't fray anymore. So you want the side that's was sealed by the factory on the outside, and this one, which I cut on the inside because it's not really perfect. You just kind of jam it on in there. So that's what that looks like. When you put it in, make sure it bottoms out at the back. You'll know you're there because you won't be able to push it any farther, but make sure it goes all the way to the back. Now, come in with your drill bit, and you just go straight in there, just like that. Perfect. That guy goes in like that. Make sure it hits the bottom. Lock it in here. Wrong way. Uh-oh. Really? Oh, we broke it. Got it. Cool. Didn't even notice. Now that we've got these two pieces, it is time for us to leave the garage and go to a place where the air conditioning works. What? This is the only part that matters. This is the only part that needs to be clean. Now that we're back inside, we can continue with the build. So next step is going to be putting the bullet lock inside this tube. And what you're going to have to do is, based on the tolerances of your printer, and if you have elephant's foot like me, you have to sand down this bottom layer. Or, if you don't like your fingers, you can use a box cutter. And what you're aiming for is to be able to take the bottom of this, this is the bottom, this is the top, and insert it into the tube so that it fits snug like that. You're going to need an M5 nut, and you gotta just kind of pop it in there like that. And it may need a little bit of help getting in. And now it should sit nice at the bottom. And now that's ready to go in. One more small note I would like to make about these is that they actually make excellent blowgun projectiles. So yeah. So from when we drilled these, you can tell that one of them, the hole, is farther away from the end of the tube, and one of them, the hole, is closer to the end of the tube. You have to make sure that the one that's closer to the end of the tube goes with the coupling hub, and the one that's farther away from the end of the tube goes with the coupling to tube adapter. I also just realized that YouTube probably won't like me saying the B word, so we're going to call this little spaceship now. Basically what we're going to be doing is taking our little spaceship friend and trying to push him in the end of the tube to about the point where the holes are the same distance. So we're going to hold the tube straight up like that, and our little spaceship, send him off into the unknown with the hole facing upwards. And we're just going to kind of hope he makes it. There we go. So perfect. That landed exactly where it needed to be. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the coupling adapter and we're going to slide it over the end, making sure not to move the tube nearly that much. And we're going to align that right over the hole as well. I'm going to shake a little bit, make sure that the nut is at the end of our little spaceship friend. And we're going to put the bolt in. Oh my god, there's a drill bit stuck to this. I hate working with magnets. Everything gets magnetized. Perfect. And you just want to get it to where it's nice and tight. You don't want to crank it down too much or else you'll break the carbon fiber. But this part is done. And now we got to do this one, which I'll do off camera because it's the exact same process. Okay, now that both of these pieces are finally assembled, I'm going to talk about kind of where the beauty of this design comes from. So, as you remember, this carbon fiber tube was 500 millimeters. Now, if you held a 500 millimeter carbon tube in your hand, you would think, well, this doesn't feel very nearly long enough to be for a virtual reality gun stock, and you'd be completely right. So, there's actually space. So the space here between the bottom of where the tube sits and the bottom of the piece, and the end here is, and the coupling, which is going to go right here between those two pieces, that adds about 140 millimeters, which actually does make it long enough for a virtual reality gun stock. So it's 14 centimeters for those of you who like fractions, I guess. So yeah, this design is a really kind of simple, and I kind of eked out space where I could to make it long enough, but also keep it lightweight. So thanks for watching, guys. See ya. Bye. Be back for part 3.